This time, would you join me as we light the candles of freedom? There's candles upon each table, and I'd also like at this time to call up two of the firemen, if they're in the audience, to light the two candles down here on the front of the stage. This time I would like you all to rise. We have a presentation of colors by our Joint Military Honor Guard made up of the Helena Police Department, Helena Fire Department, Montana State Firemen's Association, Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Office, the Montana Highway Patrol. Ladies and gentlemen, present the colors.
Company, attention.
Ladies and gentlemen, would you please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing. The national anthem today will be sung by Dr. Gary Blum.
Company, present arms.
Would you join me in this great anthem? Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous night o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, those bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still
day. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. Shall we pray? Almighty God, we come to honor you this day. We acknowledge you're the only one that can rightly lead our country. Lord, we lift up our country and we ask that you bless our country with your wisdom, love, and your compassion. We ask that you bless our leaders and we hear your voice and follow your guidance. May we have passion for the people, for truth, and for righteousness. Lord, we lift up a prayer for our service members, police force, and firefighters. We're grateful for their service and their dedication to keeping our nation, our community safe. We pray that you will keep them safe. Bless our efforts here today as we honor those who lay down their lives to ensure future generations life and liberty. Lord, may our sons and daughters always be free. Amen.
Thank you, Chaplain. If you look at your program, you may sit down. If you look at your programs, all the information about our guest speakers and our honor guard are in there, and we invite you to tell them thank you when you see them, as the honor guard will probably be leaving us, but we want to make sure that they're acknowledged and their time that they've taken away from their duties is sincerely appreciated. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of our Montana Honor Guard, for this morning's ceremony. We appreciate your attendance as it is each year. As we do of your attendance here this morning, I'm Barry McNamara. I'll be your MC for the next hour, and we're going to continue right into our program. And at this time, I'd like to have a young man of 94 years of age to please come forward. He is retired Colonel James Barfnick, and he will be doing the POW MIA Missing Man Table and Honor Ceremony. Now, this young man is very familiar to people of Helena and the Montana National Guard. He is a United States Naval veteran, graduate of the Montana State University, home of the Bobcats. Scott? 70 missions over the country of Japan off the USS aircraft carrier Yorktown during World War II from 1944 to 1945. And Colonel Barfnick is accompanied by his daughter Dee, and we are honored to have him with us. He is the first Montana Aviation Commander for the 189th Aviation out there at the Helena Airport. If you look at the helicopters and running around, well, he's the man that started that back in the early 1950s after he came back from the Navy and joined the Montana National Guard and retiring from there. Would you please welcome Colonel James Barfnick, and he will be doing the honor ceremony for the POW MIA. Colonel?
A lot of paper up here. I'm going to be reading from the script here that memorializes, explains, and gives us some status to the POW-MIA table. I'll begin by saying, those who have served and those currently serving in the armed forces of the United States are ever vigilant that the sweetness of enduring peace has always been tainted by the bitterness of personal sacrifice. That's MLW, POW, and MIA. We are compelled to never forget that we enjoy our daily pleasures here and others who have endured and may still be enduring the agonies of pain, deprivation, and internment. As we continue our activities this morning, we will pause to recognize our POWs and MIA. We call your attention to a small table which occupies a place of dignity and honor. It is set for one, symbolizing the fact that members of our armed forces are missing from our ranks. We call them POWs and MIAs. We also call them comrades. They are unable to be with their loved ones and families today, so we join together to pay humble tribute to them and bear witness to their continued sacrifice. This table, set for one, is small, symbolizing the frailty of one person alone, whether it be, excuse me here, I'll get this straight. Alone against his or her suppressors. The tablecloth is white, symbolic of the purity and the intentions to respond to their country's call to arms. The single red rose in the vase signifies the blood they have shed to ensure the freedom to our beloved United States of America. The rose also reminds us of the family and friends who keep the faith while waiting their return. The yellow ribbon on the vase represents those who demand a final account of our comrades who are not among us today. The slice of lemon on the plate reminds us of their bitter fate. The salt, when sprinkled onto the plate, reminds us of the countless fallen tears of families as they wait. The glass is inverted. They cannot trust with us this day. They cannot toast with us this day. The chair is empty. They are not here. The candle is reminiscent of the light of hope, which lives in the hearts to illuminate their way home, away from their captors and into the open arms of a grateful nation. Let us pray to the Supreme Commander that all of our comrades will soon be back within our ranks. Let us remember them and never forget their sacrifices. May God forever watch over them and protect them and their families. Now, just some statistics. The American Legion has published in their last newsletter that there were 83,000 POW and MIAs from World War II to the recent warfare. Of that 83,000, 55 were from Montana. And they were broken out as follows. There were 8 from World War II, there were 28 from Korea, 18 from Vietnam, and 1 from the recent get-together. Statistically, that spells 83,000 people, 55 from Montana. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Colonel James Bartnick retired and assisted by his daughter Dee. Thank you very much. And I forgot to mention that he's an avid golfer. He golfs 2 or 3 times a week, and his golf score is around his age. So we could only hope one or the other for our benefit. Thank you again, Colonel Bartnick. And Jim, it's always good to see you. And if you had the opportunity to meet his lovely wife Jenny, who passed in 2013, the light of his life, and she was the light of everybody's life whenever she was around, and sincerely miss her as well. We continue with our program, ladies and gentlemen, with David Blades and Taps. Thank you, David. The theme of our program today is American Heroes. We just heard from one. The audience is filled with many, and we thank each and every one of you for being here. You're our heroes today. First, I'd like to acknowledge that our Sergeant at Arms is here as well, and a big part of this program over the years. He's been a speaker in the past as well. And would you please give a round of applause to Mike B. Johnson Haskins, please. 3 and war veteran. He said it's a forgotten war, and we're going to try to keep remembering that you're not forgotten, Jim, and the rest of your Korean War friends and buddies. This time I also would like to introduce and recognize some of our dignitaries that are in the audience. And we'll start with the Adjutant General of the Montana National Guard, who will also be speaking. Would you please welcome Major General Quinn, Adjutant General of the Montana National Guard, and Department of Military Affairs. Also in our audience is retired General Livingston, who retired here this past summer, and I'd like to welcome him from Great Falls. Good to see you. General Ireland, the Chief of Staff of the Montana National Guard. Last year's speaker and a man who hit several points of, we're not only remembering heroes from America, but from our military and civilians, but the heroes in the classroom and the streets, and all those that are out there laboring and toiling each day to keep America alive and vibrant. Would you please welcome the Chief of Police of the City of Helena, Montana, Troy McGee. I don't know if the Helena Assistant Fire Chief Ken Wood is in the audience. Is Ken here? There he is. There. Thank you, Ken. At this time, we'd also like to acknowledge another World War II veteran, a man who participated in this program last year. Would you please welcome 97-year-old World War II veteran, United States Navy, Norman Smith. Thank you again, Norman. And who have I forgotten? He's there. I have him on the list. I just didn't see you, Sheriff. Would you please welcome the Sheriff of Lewis and Clark County, Leo Dutton, back to the back. You know, this is a special time for us to acknowledge our civilian and our uniformed services, and I know this is a very special time for us to maybe acknowledge the trials and tribulations of our local law enforcement and fire departments they're going through, not only in Helena and Lewis and Clark County, but the surrounding areas, from Three Forks to Fort Shaw, who lost their fire chiefs recently, and to the Montana High Patrol, who lost a patrolman in a situation by belt not too long ago. And you're all in our hearts and prayers, and we thank you and sincerely appreciate you coming and being a part of this. And on behalf of you, representing all of your brothers and sisters in law enforcement, our hearts and prayers go out to all those and those families who are suffering, and the recent loss of one of the 20-year veterans of Lewis and Clark County in the Sheriff's Department. Our thoughts and prayers to you, Sheriff Dutton, and his family as well. As we continue on this morning, I would like to remind you that we're here on the benefit of a young lady from West Virginia who has, for the 12th year in a row, put this program together. She came to Montana, and she's got a lot of fire, a lot of spirit, and she's got a lot of that freedom eyes in her. And would you please welcome Karen Lappin. She is the push, the lady who gets this going every year. And Karen and her committee, which is also comprised of her faithful servant here and at home, Jeffrey Lappin. They spread the word of the Lord across the United States riding their motorcycles, and they get back in time to make sure that all their committee members have done everything to get this going. And would we please acknowledge and rise committee members of the Patriot Day Coalition Committee and be recognized as well. Committee members, who are you? Let's see who we are. There we are. At this time, I'd like to call forward Captain Retired Pat Clinch and Lieutenant Keith Sevendinger of the Helena Fire Department for the last alarm ceremony. Gentlemen.
Good morning. The bell plays an important part of history in the traditions of the fire service. The bells would sound the alarms when received from the station pull boxes on the corner. It would give the firefighters the directions and the location of where the alarm was at. The bells would also sound the start and the end of the shift. The bells would also signal adjoining stations when other stations and when other trucks returned back from an alarm. And in the case of an alarm where a firefighter has died in line of duty, the alarm signal 555 would be sounded. I've now asked Lieutenant Semendinger to come forward to sound the last alarm for all the emergency responders who died in the line of duty.
like to acknowledge the fine facilities we're using today. You know, we started out, when Karen first started this, in the Helena Armed Forces Reserve Center Grill Hall for several years. Last few years it's been held at the Salvation Army's Gymnasium. And this year we've been blessed for the use of the Helena First Assembly of God Youth First Auditorium. We thank Pastor Scott Ward and the congregation here at the First Assembly for the use of this facility. And it's quite talked about this morning about how fine a facility it is. Thank you again, Scott. Would you please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome the head man for the Montana National Guard, Major General Matthew T. Quinn. The Adjutant General of the state of Montana.
Well, good morning. Thank you very much for inviting me here today for this Patriots Day remembrance. Not only are we here to remember those who died on September 11, 2001, but also to recognize those heroes among us who day in and day out answer the call of service to American citizens whose lives are disrupted by war, by disasters, by tragedy. Recently, your National Guard here in Montana responded on behalf of all Montanans to the state of Washington to help them deal with devastating fires ravaging their state. I had the opportunity to go and visit with your Montana National Guard soldiers who volunteered to assist our neighbors in need. This same unit that returned from war a couple of years ago stood up and said, our neighbors are in need and we want to go help. And 17 soldiers loaded onto their aircraft and headed over to Washington to help put out the fires. And again, when the fires ravaged that state once again, they stood up and returned to Washington to help. You know, as I saw those soldiers on the airstrip, ready in their aircraft to go drop water, I saw in their eyes patriots. And I know that those in uniform, both military and civilian, had responded because one of our neighbors needed our assistance. When tragedies occur, it is easy to look at the dark side of that tragedy, the loss, the suffering, the hurt. But I think we also need to look just as quickly at the positive side. The military and the civilian heroes ready to respond at a moment's notice for others in need. The giving nature of those among us who are willing to put their lives in danger in order to support those who they may or may not know, but those who they do know need our help. I am always amazed at the amazing response when your National Guard responds to an emergency. But today, I am intent on focusing just as much praise on those who wear the civilian uniform. Because the National Guard's role in local emergencies is simply to assist, to back up, to support those civilian agencies who are there on the front lines day in and day out. Sir, for a moment, I would like all of my brothers and sisters in uniform, in the military uniform, to please stand and join me in a round of applause for our brothers and sisters in service that so proudly wear their uniforms every day of every week. Please rise. Thank you. Together, military, civilian, we wear the uniforms to help our communities. You the citizens of Montana and the citizens of America are why we serve so proudly. So thank you for this day. Thank you for the work to put this event on so that we can remember those who have fallen, those who have not returned home, and those who every day serve our nation and our communities. Before I close, I would ask you to keep in mind 31 Montana Army National Guard soldiers that are still serving in Afghanistan today. Members of the 143rd Military Police Company who are on their 3rd trip overseas, who continue to serve in harm's way. We're waiting to welcome them home, hopefully in the December timeframe. So I would just ask you to keep those soldiers in your minds. Thank you all. God bless America, and God bless this great state of Montana. Thank you.
Thank you, General State of Montana, Major General Matthew T. Quinn. He knows of those deserts in the Iraq, Kuwait area. Desert Storm veteran and one of the first of the units of Montana National Guard to go to Iraq in 2003. The Kalispell unit, 595th. And we thank you again for your service, Bronze Star winner, and many other awards. Thank you for your service, General, and to all who wear the uniform. I don't know if she slipped out on me again. I didn't get a chance to acknowledge her earlier, and I meant to. Our Piper, who has been very faithful. Beth Foster, she's still in the audience, and she leaves. There she is. Beth, come up and let people take a look at her. You know, she is the very special young lady and belongs to a very special group. You might have known them as the Shining Thistles pipe band in the past, but they are now the, well, I got you to say it, the pipes and drums of the Black Devils, right?
Correct.
And they made a trip with the 1st Special Service Force veterans to go back to Italy this year and to be able to pipe the lands where the 1st Special Service Force was trained in Fort Harrison in 1943, left in 44 to go to Italy to fight World War II. They got to be a part of that, and they have been adopted by the 1st Special Service Force. We want to thank you on behalf of the other pipes and drummers of the Black Devils group. That very special honor, and we thank you for coming every year. Beth Foster, ladies and gentlemen. Would you stand when I call your name as the service that you represent, and we'll be playing the service song of each of your services. So we're going to start with the United States Army. Would all members of the United States Army, present and former, please stand and be recognized. And will all the members of the United States Marine Corps, present and former, please stand and be recognized. members of the United States Air Force, please stand and be recognized, present and past. Coast Guard. Please stand and be recognized. Continue on, I would like to please acknowledge all members of the Lewis and Clark County Sheriff's Department. Stand and be recognized. Members of the Helena Fire Department, stand and be recognized. And members of the Montana Highway Patrol, troopers, stand and be recognized. Who is serving in the capacity of helping? Oh, the Chief of Police of the Helena, the Helena Police Department. Bush McGee. Thank you. Age does that to you folks. We would like to at this time welcome back to our podium Dr. Gary Blum. You got a special rendition of a special old tune I think you're going to enjoy.
And I'm thankful for the freedoms that we have and the liberties here. Thank you, law enforcement, fire departments. Thank you, men and service women that have served us well in the past and currently are serving us. Thank you, civilians who have served this great country. I thank God for you. I thank God for not just the privileges of being an American, but I thank Him for the many blessings and for that great red, white, and blue banner. May wave. You're the emblem of the land I love, the home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, and there's never a boast or brag. But should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. Grab your grand old flag, you're a high-flying flag, and forever may peace make your way. The home of the free and the brave. Every heart beats true under red, white, and blue, where there's never a boast or brag. Should old acquaintance be forgot, keep your eye on the grand old flag. Keep your eye on the grand old flag.
Up in your step this morning, huh? Well, the next young man that's coming up is a United States Navy veteran. He served on the coast of Vietnam. Electrations mate 3rd class, commander of American Legion Lewis and Clark Post number 2, a native Montanan, and a man who has been very involved in making sure that Montana and Montanans recognize what POW, MIA, and veterans are all about. And his whole bio and story is in here. It's quite long, and I invite you to read it. But would you please welcome at this time our guest speaker this morning, Richard Dick Jervin.
Morning. I'd like to thank Jeff and Karen Latham for inviting me to speak this morning. The American heroes. If you're of a certain age, you may be familiar with a few American heroes we grew up watching in movies or on TV. We rode along with the Lone Ranger and Tonto, Roy Rogers, Dale Evans, John Wayne. John always played the part of a hero, and we could relate to them. An unusual assortment of superheroes required us to use our imaginations. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Spider-Man were dedicated to protecting the public. We found them in comic books and the Sunday paper, and most have not aged a day since we first met them. A few even made a comeback in theaters. Animals can be uncommon heroes. A cat put the run on a dog that had attacked a young boy, and a dog alerted his deaf 13-year-old master to a house fire by licking his face. And remember TV's Lassie got Timmy out of trouble on a weekly basis, and Trigger saved Roy Rogers on more than one occasion. Defining what it means to be a hero has been a source of controversy for centuries. What began as men of legend has come to describe those who are brave. The word hero can and has been used in video games or when talking about the town team that wins a championship, or to describe returning players from last year who might have fought a hard game. Others do something to benefit society, and for that, they are admired and considered heroes. Heroes is what a national home improvement store calls the volunteers who take part in their community service projects. A definition of the term hero can be broken down into three categories: mythological or legendary, one admired for his achievements and great courage, and as an object of extreme admiration. We know of firemen, law enforcement, first responders, because of their everyday visibility and the professions they have chosen, they are looked upon as heroes because of the danger associated with their jobs. On Tuesday morning, September 11, 2001, a series of terrorist attacks were launched upon the United States by 4 hijacked airliners. Americans have the events of that dark day etched in our memories. 13 years ago, we watched TV news reports in awe as New York firefighters, paramedics, and the New York law enforcement agencies raced into the Twin Towers with only one thing on their minds: get the people out as quickly as they could, keep going, keep searching until everyone is safe. Every floor had to be checked for people needing help, and that had to be exhausting work. Some stepped up and took control and did what they could to make the evacuation as orderly as possible. They were everyday people. William Rodriguez was a maintenance worker at the World Trade Center for approximately 19 years. On 9/11, Rodriguez initially rescued 15 persons from the WTC, and as Rodriguez was the only person at the site with the master key to the North Tower stairwells, he bravely led firefighters, unlocking doors as they ascended, thereby aiding in the successful evacuation of unknown hundreds of those who survived. He re-entered the tower 3 times and is believed to be the last person to exit the North Tower alive, surviving the building's collapse by diving beneath a fire truck.
Benjamin Clark was a 39-year-old chef who worked for a trust company on the 96th floor of the South Tower. He was later credited with making sure his department, along with everyone on that floor, were safely exiting the building. Clark, too, could have gotten out, except for stopping on the 78th floor to help a woman in a wheelchair. It is said his son, Taj, woke up as his father was getting ready for work at 4 a.m. "Don't go to work today," he said. He is said to have told his dad, "I don't have a good feeling." Benjamin Clark left behind his wife and 5 children. Wells Crowther was an equities trader working on the 104th floor of the South Tower. He found a group of people sitting in a smoke-filled room, believing there was no way out. Directing them to the stairway, he told the healthy to make sure the injured were also helped out. His body was found in the lobby with those of some firemen. Wells Crowther is said to have made at least 3 trips in and out of the South Tower before it collapsed. He had been a volunteer firefighter as a teenager. Tom Burnett was on Flight 93 that fatal day. He was Chief Operating Officer and Vice President of a medical devices company. When the plane was hijacked, Tom and a small group of passengers knew they had to do something. They had hoped to regain control of that aircraft, but that was not to be. To keep that from happening, the hijackers purposely crashed the plane into a Pennsylvania field. And it is generally accepted that the terrorists intended to fly and crash the plane into either the White House or the United States Capitol building. William Rodriguez, Benjamin Clark, Wells Crowther, Tom Burnett, and a small group of passengers on Flight 93, along with countless others, everyday people, we could say they are heroes. Lieutenant Colonel Ted Anderson made 3 trips helping people out of the Pentagon. Upset with firemen who stopped him on his next trip in, he said, "You don't leave your comrades on the battlefield." To him, this was a battlefield. Greater love hath no man than this, that a man lay down his life for his friends. Army Ranger and Cook Staff Sergeant Christopher Brayman went back in to assist people. Stayed that night to help first responders find and recover a number of casualties. Military personnel were seen everywhere, getting people out and helping the injured. They saved lives, helped multitudes of people, and didn't concern themselves with their own discomfort, but unselfishly more concerned about others. You remember what you were doing the morning of 9/11, 2001? I was watching a TV news program when it was interrupted with an announcement. The North Tower of the World Trade Center had been struck by American Airlines Flight 11. I continued to watch in disbelief as United Airlines Flight 175 crashed into the South Tower. More tragic news came as American Airlines Flight 77 crashed at the Pentagon and United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in Pennsylvania. Was this really happening, or was it a bad dream? After all, no one would dare attack the United States of America. We are finding that victory is not a sure thing anymore, and our enemies are not afraid to attack us in our own country. No longer will these wars be fought on foreign soil alone, but as long as there is conflict, there will be heroes. And at least for the time being, we will link them back to 9/11. There are about 300 photos and stories on a website called Faces of Ground Zero, a tribute to America's heroes. It's one of those sites that's hard to leave. One can read about hero after hero and what they endured. I couldn't help but feel emotional while reading about some of them. Remarkable stories of American heroes. Are we all heroes? Most of us will go through life only reading about those that are, while others may be at the right place at the right time and be fortunate enough to make a difference in someone's life. True heroes may be uncomfortable with the term. Ask that hero about their life-changing act and chances are they will tell you they were just doing their job. It was the right thing to do. Anyone would have done the same. Can it be that easy? I believe it takes someone special to put their life on the line and make a big sacrifice to help someone. There will always be those who stand by and watch, wishing they could do more. And I thank God there are those who do help. The Medal of Honor is given for valor in wars that past decades. At present, there are 78 living recipients out of several thousand. Some are awarded home. Each has a story and a home where their families wait with hearts full of hope. No matter how many times the POW MIA table ceremony is performed, we'll remember the commitment that never ends to locate, recover, and identify missing Americans. As the Colonel told you, there are over 83,000 unaccounted for since World War II. 55 are from Montana. He broke that down for you, but I'll tell you that 4 of them listed Helena as their place of enlistment. You are not forgotten. America stands strong. We hold on to memories, letters, photographs. They're a reminder of hopes and possibilities. A reminder about loved ones, our heroes that someday will be accounted for. In the spirit of patriotism, we stand together to remember and recognize those who help us deal with war, terrorism, and our reactions to tragedies and loss. The courage of our heroes inspires and helps us as we struggle to cope with those challenges. We clean up, we rebuild, we plan for the future. We hear the word hero used today more than ever. We talk about the quality, values, and heroes from past and present, so celebrate and honor as many as you want. They all earned it. For those we lost in the 9/11 terrorist attacks on the United States of America, and for POW MIA still unaccounted for, a prayer from the Rabbi's Manual. In the rising of the sun and in its going down, we remember them. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember them. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember them. When we have joys we yearn to share, we remember them. So long as we live, they too shall live, for they are now a part of us as we remember them. In the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember them. In the opening of buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember them. In the blueness of the sky and in the warmth of summer, we remember them. In the rustling of leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember them. In the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember them. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, very, very well done. I'd like to remind you at the close of the ceremony today, there will be a prayer walk, and you can join Pastor Thompson at the end of the hall here. There's a little prayer room just right behind the audiovisual section there where Pastor Scott Warden is, and there'll be a short ceremony there following the ceremony closing here. And I would like to again have you give a big round of applause to our guest of honor, Mr. Richard Dick Jubick in the Pineberg team. Well done. I want to thank each and every one of you for attending. We thank you for your service. If I've forgotten anyone, I apologize. It's not meant to be if I did. And, we recognize you for your attendance, whether you're in uniform or whether you're wearing the civilian clothes of your everyday wear. Thank you for making this 12th annual commemorative prayer breakfast a success. And we are going to call the honor guard and to have them retire the colors. And have a good day. And remember, as the world seems to be falling apart, be nice to each other out there. Be kind. And think of your friends and your neighbors, and those who are serving far away, and those who are serving here at home. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. for very much attending, and we'll be having the benediction, and then we'll follow that by God Bless America by Dr. Blunt. Please welcome back Chaplain Thompson.
Shall we stand for the benediction? Thank you for a wonderful, wonderful service today. Let us pray. Almighty God, as we go from here today, we ask for your guidance. May our hearts be pure, our hands be diligent as we render faithful service to you and our fellow man. Be with our police force, firefighters, and all soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Coast Guard. Grant them strength and skill as they fight to keep us safe. Confuse the efforts of our adversaries, and bless our president and our nation. Amen.
Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesties, above thy fruited plains. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood, from sea to shining sea. God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans wide with gold. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Thank you, Doctor. Please remain standing for the retiring of the colors, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, you are dismissed. Have a great day.